Okay, so what we're going to have a look at on this video is we're going to talk about the clutch and basically how it works and how we're going to use it, just to kind of start to give you some knowledge and understanding on the clutch. It tends to be the pedal that causes the most problems, okay, when we first start learning to drive. But once you start to understand the clutch and you know how to use it, it becomes a lot easier. So first of all then, what is the clutch and what does it do? So the clutch, as you probably already know from what you've already been doing, is the pedal that we operate with our left foot, which is the very left pedal. And basically it is a lever that disengages and engages the engine from the road wheels. And we need to be able to disengage the engine so we can do things like changing gears, and also bringing the car to a stop to prevent the car from stalling. So basically how a clutch works and what it is, if you can spot on my little diagram here on my pad, is we've got a mechanism. Obviously this is the mechanism that is between the engine and the gearbox. So when we start the engine up, basically what the engine does, it provides power and obviously turns. So obviously when we put some gas on, what we can hopefully see here is the engine will turn faster and obviously increase the speed. So when we come off the gas and we lift the gas off, we slow the engine down. So with the clutch pedal itself, when we push the clutch pedal down, what we actually do is we disengage the engine. So that disengages now by these two plates opening, so we can see that the engine side is still running, but the wheel side is stationary. So if we gave it some gas now, the engine would still speed up, but obviously because the plates aren't joined, then obviously there's no drive going down to the road wheels. So basically that is all the clutch actually does, is lift the clutch up, we re-engage, and pushing the clutch down it disengages. Okay, so what you probably have done already with the bit of driving that you've already done is your instructors probably spoke about the biting point and you're getting the biting point. So what we're doing, okay, is when we push the clutch down to disengage the engine to be able to then select first gear, we're then going to lift the clutch up, okay, to the biting point. So this is the point, okay, if you imagine my hands being those two plates, that's the engine plate turning. So when we select first gear and we start to bring the clutch up, those two plates now start to come together. And we get to the point where those two plates actually just start to touch each other. So very, very softly. So that is where, okay, things are going to start to happen. They're going to get a bit of bite, okay, between those two plates. Now we're going to know we've got the biting point by a few different things. One, okay, if we listen to the engine, we'll actually hear the engine tone drop a little bit. Secondly, you'll feel it. You'll start to feel the car pull. Now, we want to try and put some feeling into this, because obviously if you start to bring the clutch up too much, you'll start to feel the car really starting to pull quite hard. You'll really hear the engine, okay, starting to struggle and become quite lumpy. And sometimes you can actually start to hear the back brakes, okay, of the car start to creak a little bit because the handbrake's holding it. So it's good to use your feeling to try and feel that biting point, and also listen, try and hear what's happening. So if we have found that we have got an overbite where what we want to do then is just very gently just push the clutch down a little bit just to get rid of that. So that's basically all we're doing with the clutch, is bringing it up and down and finding the biting point. So what I want to do now, I think, is just demonstrate that to you, and just trying to get you to understand, okay, why the car stalls, and show you that, and show you how you can get a nice smooth move off, okay, with the clutch. Right, so what I want to show you here, okay, is me going into first gear and getting the biting point. And what I can show you from the outside of the car is when I get the biting point and I just lift that clutch up a little bit, you'll actually start to see the car dip. Okay, you'll see the front end will actually come up and the back end will go down a little bit. So hopefully you'll be able to see that, and how then if I just push the clutch back down a little bit, the car will pop back up, so the back end will come back up. So we can just see how, okay, and hopefully by watching what the car is doing and also then watching my foot, you can see how little a movement I'm actually on using on the clutch. It's a very, very small movement. I like to actually think about that when we get to the biting point and we're moving the clutch. I actually like to think about it more as a pressure adjustment. We're not really moving the foot, we're just actually adjusting the pressure on the clutch pedal. And I think also what's important when we're using the clutch is to have your foot in the right position and making sure it's comfortable. So we'll just show you my foot position first. So when I push the clutch down to the floor, I'm going to select first gear. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the clutch up a little bit, okay? My whole foot is raised. Now as I got the clutch coming up, I'm now going to place my heel to the floor. Now the reason why I want the heel to the floor is the heel is now going to support my leg, and I'm going to use the heel as a pivot point. So I'm not going to move my leg, I'm not going to move my heel. It's all about now my toes, if you like, moving up and down on the pedal. Alright, just make sure that is comfortable, and then your toes are up and down. So all I'm now going to do is just lift my toes up a little bit to get the biting point, and then push my toes down a fraction to come off the biting point. So you can see there, okay, there's very little movement, okay, on my foot from biting point to coming off the biting point. Now if you have a look at the car in relation to that, you should now see the car move. I hope you can hear me. So lifting the clutch up to get my biting point, and the car should start to dip. Push the clutch down, you can see it come up. Dip, up. So if I start to overbite, hopefully hear those brakes creaking, and we know that we're lifting the clutch far too high. Right. Okay, so what we're going to do is a move off in first gear. So what you're going to see me do is I'm going to select first gear. I'm going to get my biting points. And what I'm going to actually do here is do my POM routine, okay, exactly what we've done in our moving off and stopping video. So prepare, observe, move. So you're going to see me get the car prepared, get, okay, my biting points. All right, a little bit of gas. And once I'm happy with my foot being in the right position, I have my heel to the floor, and okay, using that pivot with my heel as we just demonstrated, I'll do my observations, and then when it's safe for me to move off, then I'm going to obviously let my handbrake off. Now what I want to do, okay, at that point when I've let my handbrake off, is literally just bring the clutch up a fraction so the car starts to move. Alright, so that's just going to be really taking out a little bit of pressure off the clutch pedal so the car starts to move. And we're going to hold the clutch there probably about 3, maybe 4 seconds, so the car starts to get that momentum. Now that's really important, because if we don't allow the car to get that momentum and we just try and bring the clutch straight up, that is where you're going to stall the car. So we're going to bring that clutch up, hold it, get the momentum, and as we demonstrated in the moving off and stopping video, as we start to get that momentum, we're holding the clutch there. That's where we can just start to steer and come away from the curb a little bit. And then once we've got that momentum going, after that 3 or 4 seconds, I'm going to give it a little bit more gas and bring that clutch up a little bit more, so we can start to get that speed. And then obviously once we start to get the speed, that's when we go in for the gear change. I'm not going to talk about the gear change on this video. I just really want to demonstrate, okay, getting the car moved off so we don't get that stall. Right, so let me show you what I'm going to do. So just to refresh your memories on the POM routine, so I'm going to prepare the car, clutch down, gear all the way over to the left, up into first gear. I'm going to now bring the clutch up, heel to the floor now, alright, and I'm just going to lift my toes up gently to find my biting point, and just give me a little bit of gas, and I'm going to do my observations. So checking my 6 points all the way around. I'm going to release the handbrake, and I'm now just going to bring the clutch up just a fraction, give a right signal to let the lady know that I'm moving away. I'm holding the clutch, I'm moving away from the curb, little bit of gas as I'm now bringing the clutch up. And then I can smoothly change into second. Okay, so the last thing I just want to quickly talk about here with the clutch is the stopping. Because again, if we don't push the clutch down when we bring the car to a stop, we're not going to disengage the engine. So what will happen is we'll stall the engine. So we'll look at, okay, the timing of things a little bit more there, okay, on our gear video. But basically what we're going to do is when we're coming in is a little bit of soft braking, and then that clutch is going to go right down before we actually come to a stop. What you'll start to hear, okay, at speed when you start to brake and reduce speed, okay, is you'll start to feel and also hear the engine start to rumble a little bit. So once you start to feel that engine struggle, that clutch needs to be down. So when you know you're coming to a stop, it's actually worthwhile, okay, bringing your left foot back over to cover the clutch. Don't put any pressure on the clutch pedal, keep it over it, but then that way you're ready to actually push your clutch down. Whereas otherwise, if you keep your foot away from the clutch and by the time you realize the clutch needs to go down and you've got your foot over, it could be a little bit too late. So when we know we're going to be needing the clutch, it's a good idea to prepare yourself and get that left foot covering the clutch pedal. So as soon as we hear the engine start to rumble and we can get that clutch straight down. And when we push the clutch down, unlike when we're bringing the clutch up, as we've demonstrated, we'll bring it up nice and gently and nice and slowly. When we're pushing the clutch down to disengage the engine, what we want to do is push it down all the way to the floor and push it down nice and quickly. So it's quick clutch down, slow and smooth clutch up. Okay, that's probably a good thing for you to remember. So I'm just going to obviously have a drive, just down, pull off down the road again, and then I'm just going to pull in and show you getting the clutch down at the right time. Okay, so preparing the car again into first gear, biding point with a little bit of gas, doing my observations, having a look round, releasing the handbrake, no reason for a signal on the move off, lifting my toes gently to get momentum, holding the clutch still again, moving away from the curb, giving it a little bit of gas, lifting the clutch gently, getting some power, changing into second gear, smoothly bringing that clutch up again, and then I'm going to park up. So checking my mirrors, no reason for me to give a signal here. So I'm covering my brake and clutch now as I'm coming in. Soft on the brakes, pushing my clutch all the way down now, letting the car gently roll, soft on the brakes, holding my feet still once I've stopped, handbrake on, into neutral, and then obviously I can relax. So you can see there how I've got the clutch down and we get a nice smooth stop. So with the gears, we obviously need to understand the timing of when the clutch needs to go down. We'll look at that in our gear video. But that just obviously hopefully gives you an idea of what the clutch does and how we should be using the clutch. And I'm sure obviously on your lessons with your instructor, they will obviously reinforce that and help you perfect using the clutch pedal.